Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Warhammer Fantasy with the Realm of Ridiculous. I am one of your hosts, Bricky. Joining me and telling me all about the olden days is DK Diamantes. But before we start, if you'd like to support our podcast, go to patreon.com/Adeptus Ridiculous for all kinds of great benefits, including Discord access, posters, bloopers if they happen, and so on. Give it a check out, give it a look, patreon.com/Adeptus Ridiculous, and check out merchandise over down in the description at orchidate.com, soon to be updated in the next episode of Adeptus Ridiculous. So stay tuned for that one as well. DK.
Nice. Yes, sir.
A second ago, you asked me if we had a time limit on this episode.
I did.
We do.
Okay, we have a time limit. All right.
You have exactly 1 hour and 15 minutes to get everything you need to do out. How do you feel about this task?
I feel challenged, but we'll see what happens, buddy.
Hell yes. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that we are entering the land of the spooky zone now.
I mean, we are indeed in spooky, scary season, and we have an episode that is also fittingly spooky, scary, one might say. So, are you ready for the quote?
I mean, I know what it is. It's the Bone Reapers, right?
Nope. That you are.
I know what
dead
it is.
wrong.
It's the Tomb Kings, right?
Okay, it is the Tomb Kings. Yeah. Can I still say the quote?
Yeah, you can still say the quote. It's okay.
In that dread desert beneath the moon's pale gaze, dead men walk. They haunt the shifting dune of the breathless, windless night, brandishing weapons of bronze in mocking challenge and bitter resentment of the life they no longer possess.
Game of Thrones.
No, sorry, it was Tomb Kings. Damn, Bricky.
Damn.
How did you not get that?
No.
And the thing about today's episode is with the Tomb Kings, their stuff kind of happens sort of outside of the lore stuff we've been talking about. So today is going to be more of like a generalized like history of the Tomb Kings. It's going to be kind of a big sort of like lore dump because their history gets just a little complicated. So just be aware, if you're looking for like the hyper description of their economic prowess or something, you're probably not going to find it here. But
go ahead. Well, I mean, what if I want to know about taxes?
Well, then do them.
I don't want to.
I don't want to do them either. But we live in a society, Bricky.
We don't get W-2s, so every time it's time for tax season, it hits so much harder than you expect it to.
Oh yeah, the independent employee taxes are.
Have you not made a single member LLC yet?
Oh no, I have, but it still blows. It still sucks.
It's
better. It's better. It's a lot better if you make yourself a corporation, but it still hurts.
Speaking of corporate, let's talk about working until you're dead.
So the natural starting point for the Tomb Kings is the origin of their homeland, which I can guarantee you several times I am going to butcher. It is called Nehekhara, Nehekhar. And from what I can tell, the origin point starts way back. Like with fantasy, you usually use the timeline of the imperial calendar. Imperial calendar year 1 is when Sigmar becomes emperor. The Nehekhara timeline is like 3,000 years before that. And at this point, the deserts of Nehekhara are like overrun with like chaos. There's demons and it's just this lawless hellscape. And it's the pantheon of desert gods that would show up and basically just clean house. They're going to clean up all of Nehekhara, which if you look on the fantasy map, I believe it is like, you know how fantasy map is basically just Earth?
Yeah, basically with like a big circle hole.
Mm-hmm. Nehekhara, I think, is literally just where Egypt should be.
Okay, so Right. I need to form my opinion on the knowledge that Warhammer 40K is, in a sense, copying fantasy, which is, in a sense, copying Tolkien stuff.
Yeah.
So our undead skeletons are Egyptian.
Mm-hmm. It's very on the nose Egypt. Very, like, all the aesthetics, very Egypt, very pyramids, very mummy. But
right. Whereas we don't have all of the high tech green that the Necrons do.
Yes, exactly.
Despite the fact that it's also very on the nose Egypt.
A part of me almost wants to say the Tomb Kings kind of, like, they do have Necron, but, like, they also kind of remind me of, like, the Thousand Sons with the very on the nose Egyptian sort of aesthetic, right?
Yeah. Thousand Sons have a pretty hefty one with their stuff too, but then they have all the Tzeentch stuff, and that kind of changes it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But the desert gods are going to clear out these deserts of the demon presence. They are under the leadership of the sun god Ptra, and they essentially make the deserts of Nehekhara like this prosperous, fertile land where the desert gods would protect and watch over the people of Nehekhara. And the desert gods, they're kind of sort of your standard pantheon of gods. They have the sun god, the god of knowledge. They have a god of death that is symbolized by a jackal, which is a little on the nose, GW. But again, more or less Egyptian-styled pantheon of gods. They cleanse Nehekhara, and they sort of teach the people how to sort of, make a life in this sort of now fertile desert. And you're going to get multiple cities. Every city is going to have a king. The king has, like, ultimate authority there. They raise an army. Just, let's all thrive and be cool. And the most... Oh,
the
go ahead.
Necro Sphinx is very cool.
Oh, yeah. They have some nice constructs, for sure.
Is it a construct? Like a bone construct?
So we'll talk a little bit about it, but they have stone statues that, like, these stone statue constructs that essentially they can put the soul of a deceased hero into, and then it kind of rides into battle. So you kind of ride into the battle next to literally the visage of a god that is actually the dead spirit of a hero from your past.
I want to call that Eldar coded a little bit, because the first thing I thought of
is actually, yeah.
First thing I thought of was the Wraith constructs, yeah. But I mean, I don't think I should give them too much credit, because I think that goes against my very person.
It goes against your person to give people due credit.
Give the Eldar due credit.
Oh, fair enough. You're right. Okay. And the most important city in all of Nehekhara was a place called, I kept calling it Khemri, but I watched a couple videos, and all of them really get that phlegmy, like, Khemri. So apologies if my early morning voice can't get enough phlegm to hem. But Khemri is known as the City of Kings. This is the most important city, the City of Kings, because whoever rules Khemri, whoever is the king of Khemri, ruled all of Nehekhara, and all of the other kings of the other powerful cities would be under their command. They bend the knee to the King of Kings, the King of Khemri.
Okay, Shai says, Bricky, this reminds me of Boss Baby, says man who has only ever seen Boss Baby. Listen, you're not wrong, but it's easier to pull from the things that our viewers already are familiar with.
It's true. It's true.
That you inform with the context of things your viewers also know, like Boss Baby.
I've never seen Boss Baby, actually.
Of course, you haven't. I haven't either. It looks like shit. It looks stupid.
We were just talking about it. I don't know. You're such a big SpongeBob fan. I was like, hey, maybe Boss Baby's like the same thing. Maybe it's quirkily weird and good.
Okay. I might be a quirked up white boy Goda with the sauce, but how dare you ever be like, oh, if you like SpongeBob, you must have liked Boss Baby, you fucking troglodyte.
Whoa. Damn. Troglodytes?
I'm bringing out the bigger words today.
Damn, Bricky's got a vocab. What word a day calendar finally kicking in for you?
Yeah, Wordle started getting at me.
But for a long time, Nehekhara prospered, and they saw this just crazy expansion like you wouldn't believe. They are conquering like anything and everything around them. At this point in time, they're like unchallenged in their conquest. And there's not like a huge amount of info on like how life is in these sort of like early Nehekhara days. Like we've already said many times, it seems very Egypt coded, and the wiki kind of just says, yeah, once the deserts were clear, the gods taught the people how to herd animals, cultivate the land, build roads, build ships, and everybody was happy and they were expanding. And I guess one of the big highlights of their civilization is that while most other human tribes are just base savages at this point, just base barbaric tribes that were just unga bunga. At this point, the Nehekharans actually had their own written language. They had writings, they had carvings, they could communicate, and so that was like their big thing.
I'm assuming it has nothing to do with hieroglyphics.
Oh no, of course. Surely.
They did mention hieroglyphics in Boss Baby.
Did they really? I thought you said you haven't seen it. Oh.
It was a joke. I was making a joke.
I was gonna rip on you so hard for being like, I've never seen it. I was like, anyway,
crushing.
But like with most successful conquering nations, some people aren't just happy to be a part of it. They're not happy just being a king as part of the whole. They want the power. They want to be the ruler of Khemri. They want to wear the crown of Nehekhara. And so all of these great nations of Nehekhara begin to feud with each other. They start basically this gigantic civil war among themselves. Although I shouldn't call it a civil war. There was nothing civil about it. And so
that was trash. That was a trash joke. That was a terrible joke. You're awful. I hate you.
To me, it
Nothing
is an ancient,
civil about it.
That is an ancient joke. Okay, that one
Boomer
is
ass looking. Holy.
But, so the crown of Nehekhara would kind of start to hot potato between a bunch of different kings, because one king would be like, ha, I have the crown now. And then a stronger king would come around and be like, no, you don't. It's mine now. And this apparently happened so often, and kings were getting dethroned so often that I believe I read that Nehekhara was just like, yeah, screw it. We're not even going to keep a record of who the kings are. Just forget it. It's getting hot potato that much. And so they hit like this all-time low, because while they're having this like big civil war and they're bickering and they're fighting over who gets the crown, who's the king of kings, who's the flavor of the month, their own borders are like defenseless. Their own cities are getting ransacked and overrun. And you'd think at this point they'd be like, oh, okay, we need to ceasefire. We need to get all our shit back. And once we're properly big again, because literally we have let a bunch of our cities fall to the greenskins. The lizardmen have taken some of our cities, and even those base barbaric human tribes that don't even have language, even they are just running amok over us. You'd think they'd be like, oh, okay, let's refocus. Nope, they are still just so bitterly trying to be the king of king that they just let it happen.
So we're talking massive, like just everyone's infighting.
Yeah, basically it is.
The classic.
The classic. The other problem is plague and disease are now eating people alive. They're running out of food. They're kind of starving. Like, it's really bad. They are kind of sort of on the brink of just like total collapse and disappearing from the history books that they once absolutely ruled. Until a proper king of kings takes the throne. His name is Settra.
Oh, God.
And hey, don't worry, I'll just call him Settra for now. But
you better call him by his full name.
Live chat. I will get into all of his titles in just a little bit, but he's got to earn them first. Right now, he is just Settra.
All right. Fair point. As he does each and individual thing, we can have him slowly gain titles.
No, he's just going to get them all at once. I'm telling you right now, he's just going to get them all at once.
Oh, okay.
And now you might think Settra must have been some sort of kind and benevolent ruler because, man, DK, you said he's a proper king of kings. He sets this shit right. He must be just grand, right? Wrong. Settra was a tyrannical monster. He was cruel, he was vain, he was egotistical. If you did anything short of adore him, he would probably kill you. But while he might have been a turbo asshole, he was at least smart enough to know that, like, you know what? Our culture has kind of strayed away from properly showing reverence to the desert gods. Like, y'all are hot potatoing this damn crown around and you forgot what was really important. You forgot to pay homage to the gods. And Settra was like, I'm not going to make that mistake. And so temples and shrines dedicated to the desert gods start popping up during Settra's reign. And to show the gods just how totally serious Settra is, he quite literally sacrifices his own children to the desert gods to show them his devotion.
When you say sacrifice them to the desert gods, do you mean like a ritualistic sacrifice, or did he do like a desert-based type of god thing where he just like sent his kids out into the desert and was like, take them, gods, and then he just like ran away?
Oh no, he straight up murders his kids for the desert gods.
Oh, okay, kind of based, but like, you know.
Yeah, like Shai said, probably stabbed him with a knife on top of a ziggurat or something.
Okay,
yep.
I mean, like that's like,
Yep.
Did it work?
I was about to say, apparently the desert gods were like, hell yeah, brother. We love it when our dudes sacrifice their children. Let's reward them. Because, like, previously dry rivers suddenly are overflowing like never before. Plague and disease start to vanish from Nehekhara, and they started to prosper again. So, did it work? It sure did. And this was like one of the big signs to a lot of people and a lot of these sort of like priests that, holy shit, he's the one. This is the guy. He is anointed by the gods to be our savior. And so Settra is literally reuniting all of Nehekhara as like the first proper and true priest king of Khemri. Truly, he is the king of kings. Like, nobody could challenge his rule. No matter how many kings tried to step to him, he would absolutely demolish them, and then he would proceed to conquer their shit. And even though super tyrannical, super savage, he had led them to a prosperity they had literally never seen. And under his reign, they just keep expanding further and further. Just like the old days, nobody steps to him. Settra just goes ham. He is an incredible tactical genius. He is a renowned fighter. And as I've said several times already, he is a ruthless son of a bitch. But then this like really important moment happens in Settra's reign. He's standing on like parts of the Black Mountains, which is kind of like where the Battle of the Blackfire Pass happened, when the Greenskins almost invaded, but Sigmar was like, no, you don't. And he's just kind of looking over everything that he's conquered. And while most kings would be like, wow, look at everything I've done. Look at everything I've accomplished. Settra looks out and he's fucking pissed. He is just looking at everything he has yet to conquer, and he just starts like screaming and crying and being angry because he's like, I can't live long enough to conquer all this stuff. I could live another 3 lifetimes and it wouldn't be enough for me to conquer everything.
That's so funny.
Right?
Like, he's just like, God, I can't believe there's so much world I could steal, but I just can't do it.
The mortality, it sucks. I can't conquer literally the world. I just don't have enough time.
Wow, he is an asshole.
Yeah, turbo asshole. Yep. And so it would be at this point that Settra decides, you know what? I am going to conquer mortality. I want to be immortal. I am going to figure out a way to give myself enough time to conquer all of this. So Settra does what any good immortality-wanting Mad King does, and he founds a group called the Mortuary Cult. This cult would be made up of his best and brightest priests, and they get the impossible task of, hey dudes, figure out immortality so I can rule the world forever. And the Mortuary Cult does their best, and actually they do manage to figure out like how to extend their life and Settra's life long beyond what a human should be able to live out. But they still just can't quite figure out immortality, which sucks for them because Settra, he was not known for being a patient dude. He does not take failure well, and he does not take the words no very well. So the Mortuary Cult, who are, like I said, super extending their life, they're like, look, we've pretty much done what we can at the moment. Like, we've extended your life, but while we can't make you immortal, what we have gotten really good at is mummifying people and using magic rituals to basically keep their body intact. And we can do that for you. And once we figure out this immortality thing, we'll raise you from the dead to an immortal body, and you will rule over a golden paradise forever and all time, just like you want.
Listen, I'm about to boss baby again. I'm about to boss baby again. Can this be the new colloquialism for going towards the one thing you know and being like?
Yes, you could. Yeah, boss baby all over.
So you're telling me that these people are about to trick him into immortality? And offer him, he wants immortality. They're saying they have a way, and they're gonna trick him. And it's
not quite the Necrons. I will give you, it's not quite like that. I know at the moment it seems very like, wow, when's the biotransference gonna happen, right? Not quite like that, but like it is kind of Necron coded, right?
It's very Necron coded. It's just the fact that, like, you know, GW, normally you're supposed to copy other people's homework, not your own.
They copied their own. They're reusing essays. Yeah.
So hardcore that they submitted the same essay, but they just put a new coat of paint on it. So it's just really funny to me.
Mm-hmm. And naturally, a very old Settra is, despite this being pretty good news, he's pissed about it. Like, I was reading that he's just like all piss and vinegar as they're preparing his body because he doesn't want to have to do this. He doesn't want to have to die. But again, his priest's like, hey, don't worry, big guy. Once we figure this thing out, golden paradise, millions of years. Don't worry about it. So old age does eventually take Settra, and they do all the incantations. They do the rituals. They mummify his body, and as is common in sort of Egyptian mythos, his most loyal bodyguards, his legion of troops, and all of his vast treasures are buried along with him. Notably, his most fierce champion, like his number one guy, was the first person to be like, I go to the afterworld with my king himself. There's a guy named Harold Nagash, the imposing champion, and he's like, I'm going to be the first one to join my king. And befitting of King Settra's status, his pyramid is enormous. It is the single biggest structure in all of Nehekhara, just this gigantic, towering, blindingly white pyramid that would be guarded, protected, and maintained daily to make sure that when the time was right, big boy Settra would be able to make his grand return. And just little bit of a side here. The belief here for Settra and the mortuary cult is that when you die, your soul will go to a place known as the realm of souls. It's kind of your basic afterlife where if you're someone like Settra, your soul will basically rest in paradise. I think they consider it like this lavish palace that you rest in until you're able to be brought back to life into a golden paradise. They love their golden paradise. Conversely, if you're an absolute shitter, like specifically a traitor or something, then you get the very typical eternity of horrible torture for your crimes. You specifically do not get mummified. That is an honor your body doesn't get, and they kind of just throw your bones into the desert to be forgotten.
Okay, so you're just gonna get yeeted, and the carrion vultures pick away at you.
Exactly.
Okay, I like how being. I mean, I get why being mummified is considered a good thing in this world, but it is quite funny.
Yep. Now, as you can imagine, without Settra at the helm, things kind of devolved to more or less what they were before his rule. Kings are kind of infighting again for the position of ruler of Khemri. It never gets quite as bad as it was before Settra, but there's still a fair amount of infighting. A lot of kings are coming and going. Some were prosperous. Some were kind of flavor of the month. And it became pretty common that the kings would be like, man, mortuary cult, I saw what you did for Settra. Can you do that for me? Like, can you hold on to my body and all my stuff and all my armies until you guys figure out that immortality thing? And then can you revive me too? And so that kind of became the desire for the kings. They want a pyramid. They want that pyramid to be more lavish and impressive than the king before them. And it's getting to the point, right, where there are so many kings, there are so many armies, and there are so many soldiers that want to be anointed in like mummification and all this that like the dead are actually like significantly outnumbering the living. And there are just pyramids and necropolises that are popping up left and right. And the populace is sort of tasked with like taking care of them, guarding them, maintaining them. And it's becoming like a culture of the dead.
Wait, hold on. Shy said, time for boss baby. Entire society obsessed with death, living in giant graveyard cities.
I'm actually boss babying?
I'm actually not sure what boss babying thing she's referring to right now.
Graveyard cities? I guess
graveyard cities entirely obsessed with death?
Yeah, wait, what is that, Shy?
Oh, she means the Necron tier. Oh, I thought, for some reason, I thought you were boss babying a different reference. But yes, you are. Yeah, that is very much pre biotransference. Yeah, I wasn't actually thinking that hard on that one because I kind of already have accepted that we've copied the homework. So I've moved on. I've moved on. Where we can talk about a different Pixar film.
Yeah, and hey, at least they're not on an irradiated planet that gives them like super cancer. So
are they not?
At least there's that. No, there's no super cancer yet. They just really don't want to die, and they just kind of want to live forever.
Oh, okay, well that's good then. I thought maybe that the desert would give them super cancer for some other reason.
No.
All right, well that's good.
It should also be noted that while the mortuary cult were extending their own lives, there is a huge difference between immortal life and immortal youth. So after a while, a lot of these Liche Priests and mortuary cult elders were like, they might as well have been walking skeletons. And I believe also, as time goes on, the mortuary cult is like, we've got a lot of prestige. And we have this prestige because we're the only ones that have the information on how to prolong someone's life. So let's make sure we keep that information real close to the chest. Let's make sure we, let's, give the king longer life. But let's not tell him how we're doing it, because if the kings find out, they might be like, you know what? I guess I don't need the mortuary cult anymore. And then in-sync them, where they go, bye. It should also be noted that no pyramid is ever allowed to be as grand as Settra's pyramid. His pyramid should always stand as the most important pyramid of them all, because they just respect Settra, and I think most kings are terrified that if Settra ever did come back and saw that someone was trying to upstage him, they would be on the wrong side of a Settra ass whooping. So no tomb is as big as Settra. And this is kind of where we start getting the name Tomb Kings, right? Because this is what every ruling king of Nehekhara wants. They want to be entombed in their pyramids until the day of awakening, where they can live forever and see Nehekhara prosper literally forever. And like I said before, soldiers, they don't want to be rewarded with, like, you know, riches and have lavish prizes or anything for their heroic deeds. Like, they don't want money. They want the promise of mummification. They want the promise of immortality. And so the mortuary cult is just getting more and more influential. And again, they're making progress. They live for a long time. They're passing down their progress to the next generation of Liche Priests. And they're making, like, really big strides, but still just don't quite have that full-on immortality going.
I have to admit that Liche Priest mini is so peak.
Yeah.
We are not beating the Age of Sigmar mini allegations.
Nope, you're really not. Especially with the Tomb Kings. Like, they are.
Wait,
yeah.
Ricky, look at the full. Is it on, like, a skeleton sphinx dinosaur looking bird combo thing?
It sure looks that way.
What is that?
I would guess it was like almost like a scorpion skeleton.
It's a dragon. It's a necropolis dragon.
Oh, a mummy bone dragon. Let's go.
I'm so jealous. God damn.
Yeah. If only 40K would never.
I mean,
40K would never. Imagine having an emperor that moves and also minis like this.
That's so cool.
Yep.
God damn.
And naturally, the worship of the pantheon desert gods also starts to shift with, like, this new outlook. Because before it was like, Petra, the sun god, he is the father of all gods, he's the most important, praise him. But now everyone's like, no, let's praise the god of death. Joth, DGAF, I'm going to say Joth, and also the god of the underworld, his name is Usirian. And so they suddenly become the most praised gods. It's big shift towards, we love death, we worship death, we obsess over death and conquering death. And everything is going relatively well until the biggest asshole in all of Warhammer Fantasy makes his appearance. It's time to talk about Nagash.
Oh, wait. Nagash and Settra are different.
Nagash and Settra are two different people. Yep.
Oh, damn.
Oh, you thought they were like the same?
I think maybe I just saw two giant bone dudes and kind of like made an assumption.
That's fair. That's
but
fair.
I think maybe, yeah, because I was like, oh, a big bone dude that everyone talks about, and then there was the other big bone dude that everyone talks about. So I thought maybe it was his name was like Nagash Settra. Like, that was his full name.
Oh, right. And, like, to be fair, when it comes to the Tomb Kings, like, a lot of the lore is basically just like, hey, look how great Settra is, and wow, Nagash sure is an asshole.
This is okay. I mean, Nagash looks cool. Look at him. He's standing upon, like, an entire, like, contingent of bodies, and he's siphoning something. I'm sure there's a head on that pike, by the way. I'm sure he's chill.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Why don't we talk about Nagash? So Nagash is the son of whoever the hell the current king of Khemri is at the time. Who he is doesn't really matter. It just matters that Nagash is one of the sons of the king of Khemri. Nagash is slated to become a priest for the mortuary cult, and his brother is slated to become the next king of Khemri. And Nagash is like a super prodigy, and he is rising through the ranks of the mortuary cult, like, really, really fast. But Nagash, in his mind, is like, I don't care that I'm a prodigy. I don't care that I'm like one of the greatest mortuary cult members ever. I want to be king over my stupid brother. My brother is dumb. He doesn't deserve to be king, and he's king now. So what does he do? He gets a bunch of priest underlings that like worship him. Most notable one being named Arkin the Black, who we'll kind of talk about a little later. And he takes them and, they entomb his brother alive in the pyramid of their dead father. And the next morning, Nagash, with his brother's blood still like all over him and dripping from his hands, sits on the throne and more or less is just like, "Sup, bitch? I'm the king now."
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. There's been a lot of like interesting. This faction has been really struggling because of X, Y, and Z, and this faction, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Tomb Kings. I'm confused again. The Tomb Kings have done everything to themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
the amount of infighting, petty, like their ego knows no bounds.
The hubris of every person you've mentioned so far is astounding.
Oh, yeah. Every problem they have absolutely done to themselves through infighting, civil war, and them not having the power they think they should have. 100%.
That's lovely.
But nobody dared.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Ahead.
I have to. Shai says hubris. No. Quote, "There will be no escape, no blessed oblivion. I can end your life as easily as I can extinguish a candle. And before your corpse is cold, I can reach out and grasp your soul. You will be my slave for all of eternity, and I shall laugh at the depths of your pain. Such is the power of Nagash." Is he speaking in third person?
Probably, yeah.
Oh my god.
Because, like, you're going to see it soon, and I'm going to repeat it, but Nagash, to me, is the most comically Saturday morning cartoon villain I think you will ever see.
I think I've heard "such is the power of Nagash" a lot.
Yeah, it's a pretty big meme. Chat is probably spamming it right now.
That's a good point. We do have a premiere, so that whenever these go live as a premiere thing, there's a damn good chance that they are just spamming "such is the power of Nagash."
Is a really good chance, yeah. And so Nagash and his followers kind of start going down this funky path, and they start kind of dabbling in some questionable dark magic to help out their end goal of conquering death. Like there are some dark elves that end up shipwrecked on their shores of Nehekhara, and so Nagash captures them. And he just starts torturing them on the daily until they teach him everything they know about the dark arts, about dark magic. And Nagash keeps this up for years until he has pretty much learned everything he can from these dark elves. And the dark elves finally, they're like, "Oh, we finally managed to break free. We've gotten out of Nagash's cell." And Nagash kind of finds them. And he's like, "Oh, you guys want to go free? Well, sure. All you have to do is beat me in a duel. A dark magic duel. If you win, you go free. If you don't, well, I'm gonna kill you." And so they get into this big duel, and Nagash, boy, he's that guy, pal, because he's learned dark magic better than these expert dark elves, and he just straight up kills them. So now Nagash is the unquestioned ruler through the murder of his brother, and now he not only has his own formidable skills as a mortuary cult Liche Priest, but he's mixing that with some really potent dark magic too. And even though the Tomb Kings find that's kind of taboo, dude. You're not supposed to do that. You can't do that. He's actually making some really great strides in figuring out how to conquer death, and actually, he makes an elixir of life that will actually, if you keep drinking it, it'll give you eternal youth. So, yeah, he makes an elixir of life that continue to consume it, you gotta keep drinking it, it gives you eternal youth, like eternal youth immortality. Not just eternal life, eternal youth. But one of the ingredients that this thing is based off of is human blood.
Lovely. Of course. I knew that I like eternal youth. Like there's definitely not a backside to or downside to this.
No, there's no, yeah. And I'm sure you can kind of see where this is going, but we'll get there. And the first person he lets drink of this elixir after him is Arkan the Black. That's like his number one
I was ready for
guy.
Arkan Land. I was ready for Arkan Land. Like Arkan Land. Oh.
Arkan the Black. And Arkan the Black is no joke. He is, I believe he was at this point undefeated in open combat under Nagash's rule, and he is just fiercely loyal to Nagash. You do not with Arkan. Anyway, so Nagash is, again, the only one that can, like, recreate the elixir of life. So again, his followers become even more insanely loyal because our boss has the ticket to immortality. Nagash also records all of his insane spells and all of his insane secrets in 9 powerful tomes. And can you guess what Nagash would call his most powerful tomes filled with all of his secrets?
Please tell me they're called Nagash's tomes.
Oh, you are so close. They're the books of Nagash. You basically had it.
He just names himself after everything.
Of course he does.
Goodness.
Don't worry. This isn't the last time he's going to name something after himself either.
Such is the power of Nagash.
Such is the power of Nagash, dude. And naturally, if you get your hands on these books, you basically had the dummy's guide on how to raise an undead army. The necrotic shit that he was cooking up was genuinely on a whole different level. But if you really want to unlock all the secrets, you also need Nagash's wisdom. Like, you kind of, to really get these books at like full potential, you kind of need Nagash's power, the power of Nagash. Like, you can still do stuff with them, and we'll talk about a very specific example of someone having the books but not Nagash and it going a little sideways, but Nagash is pretty important in the books of Nagash. Nagash also decides to build a very special pyramid for himself, where Settra had this brilliant white pyramid made for himself. Nagash was totally opposite. Well, not totally opposite. Nagash wanted a midnight black pyramid made of black marble.
Is that the pyramid that I saw kind of up a bit, where it was like, hold on. This.
Oh, yep. In that one really cool picture. Yes, it is. Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's just, it's so much larger than every other pyramid.
Yep. And Nagash was the only one with the arrogance to actually make his pyramid bigger than Settra's. Quite a bit bigger than Settra's if you like look at the pictures of it.
Wait, why is it flying?
Because it's a magic pyramid, of course.
Oh my god.
Because the thing about Nagash's Black Pyramid is it's not just some place for him to be laid to rest. The whole point of him building this pyramid is because it's actually made to amplify Nagash's magic. Like, it would literally suck out the winds of magic and funnel it into Nagash whenever he needed it. And as you can imagine, because it's so important to him like that, he is obsessed with making sure this thing gets built. And to build it, he is literally bleeding Nehekhara dry of all of its resources. He is starting wars. He is going into fights. He is doing everything he can to get resources to make his big, disgustingly black marble pyramid. And eventually, he succeeds in building it. But problem is, like, when he finishes it, Live Nehekhara is just kind of barren wasteland. And even though Nagash is like super juiced on magic, the rest of the country, the rest of Nehekhara, not super thrilled with Nagash. Not really vibing with, the whole bleeding our country dry for your stupid pyramid.
Well, now hold on. It's not just the Black Pyramid.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. It's the Black Pyramid. of Nagash.
The Black Pyramid of Nagash. Yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
You're right.
I want to make sure that we're on the same page here.
That's fair. It's a fair criticism. You know, thank you for keeping me honest. I appreciate it. And so the rest of the kings of Nehekhara are like, man, fuck this guy. And they decide it's time to square up and take down Nagash. And Nagash is like, hey, you wanna unite against me? Check out this sick new trick I learned. And he literally raises an army of undead warrior skeletons. And at first, things go like super well for Nagash. Like he's doing a pretty solid job of holding back like the rebelling kings who would step to him. And for a little bit, it kind of seems like he was actually going to pull off some big villain energy and actually take over the world. But then the kings of Nehekhara, they kind of stop messing around. And finally, they like properly combine all of their armies. It is like this giant army of 7 kings combined to like it's like the first time since like Settra that all of Nehekhara is finally pushing forwards towards a single goal. And this probably came big surprise to Nagash because he's probably figuring, oh, you know what, they'll probably give up, realize that you can't beat me, and they'll just all fall in line.
You mean the surprise of Nagash?
Ha 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 ha, the surprise of Nagash. I like it. And not only that, even the mortuary cult was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, this guy stinks. And they also lend their aid to the united army of 7 kings, and they start making these, they make those big constructs that we were talking about earlier. They're these big constructs that look like the pantheon gods, and they take the spirits of ancient heroes from the realm of souls and put them in the construct. And, you know, when you have the visage of your literal gods fighting by your side and just mowing people down, it kind of gives you a little bit of a pump. And so the armies of Nagash not only get this huge surge of confidence, they straight up do actually beat the undead forces of Nagash. They took all of those trusted counsel that had been drinking the potion of eternal youth, dragged them into the sunlight, and executed them in like the square.
Okay, I mean, I'm not going to say that this is not in line with how they've all dealt with their enemies so far. I you know what I love about this entire story? Every other faction that we've talked about so far has had an invading force of another faction of some kind. We haven't mentioned a single other faction like once.
Well, hey, we did talk about how greenskin lizardmen and some base savage human tribes were taking some of their cities while they were fighting each other. They were mentioned.
Barely. It's just like all the Tomb Kings are in the middle of the Sahara Desert, just like killing each other. That's this entire episode.
It really is. It really is just them fighting themselves.
Oh my God, this is just like Boss Baby.
Mm-hmm. Oh, just like Boss Baby. But of course, Nagash just barely manages to escape because his boy Arkan stalls for time before they can find Nagash. According to what I read, Arkan goes like super Chad mode for Nagash, and with just himself and his army, he held off the army of 7 kings for over an hour. Arkan, kind of legit. But finally, in all of the chaos, there's a throwing spear that just gets him right through the chest, and he's just kind of like, oh, shit. And as he's dying, he's like screaming out like, a curse on anyone who touches my remains! And his body is consumed in purple flames, and all that's left behind is a charred black skeleton. This feat of Arkan, like being able to hold off the army of 7 kings for as long as he did, was actually so respected that they built him a sort of a burial site of stones. I think it's called a cairn, whatever, to pay their respects to like, damn, he might have been working for Nagash, but respect. But it's entirely possible that they paid him respects after death because they were just terrified of trying to like defile his corpse and what consequences might come of that. But yeah, after Arkan makes his stand holding off the armies, Nagash is able to retreat north, where he makes this crazy big like palace in the mountains, and he calls it Nagashazar.
Nagashazar?
Nagashazar.
He mixed his name into it?
Yep. Which I believe they said in their language just translates to glory of Nagash.
Such is
the glory of Nagash. Such is the power of Nagash. And so Nagash leaves with sort of this, like I said, this very sort of Saturday morning cartoon of, you haven't seen the last of me, Spider-Man. I will return one day and take over the world. And he just kind of shuffles off north to Nagashazar. So, with Nagash out of the picture for now, a couple things change in Nehekhara. They're slowly starting to recover. The people are like, the royal line isn't always super trustworthy, but they're sort of, they're recovering. They put a lot more restrictions on the mortuary cult too. They're like, mortuary cult, maybe no more crazy side projects for you. Maybe just stay solely focused on how to give our Tomb Kings that immortality you promised. Okay, and while you're doing that, no more dark magic. If you guys do any of that dark magic bullshit, we're not going to be happy with you. So they kind of put a ball and chain on the mortuary cult because, they were kind of a problem with Nagash. And so they're recovering, things are going all right, but then, finally, they get another really great king. His name is Alcadizar. I hope I'm saying that right. And he's kind of like, he's kind of Settra at home, like, hey, Mom, I want Settra. Oh, don't worry, we've got Settra at home, and it's Alcadizar, because he's like a great king, but he's not Settra. But, again, next best thing, they're prospering, things are going really well. Everybody loves Alcadizar. But of course, it wouldn't be some variation of Warhammer if someone didn't try to screw everything up when everything was fine. And so there's this city, it's called Lamia. And they were like, you know what? Nagash wasn't great, but he sure had some cool toys, and man, he pretty much had immortality. So like if we could get some of his secrets, we don't have to rely on the mortuary cult anymore. We can cut our dependency on them completely, and we can be our own thing.
I do want to say that I do really like the fact that it's the mortuary cult. It's called the mortuary cult. It's a really cool name.
It is actually a really cool name, and it's fitting for what they're doing.
That's very true.
Yeah. The people, Lamia actually, they get some people, and they legit gank one of the books of Nagash. They steal it from the Black Pyramid, and they give it to their queen, Nehekhara. And so they get to work trying to learn the Book of Nagash, and they happen to get the Book of Nagash that tells how to make the elixir of life to gain immortality. And so they start working on it. It takes them, I forget how long, it takes them several years, and they're like, hey, I think we got it. I think we've made the elixir of life. Hooray! But again, if you don't have Nagash's level of skill, and you don't have Nagash's wisdom, even the books aren't really enough. So while they succeeded in making an elixir of life, it had some side effects. Because, hey, it did absolutely give them a form of immortality, but for the people in Lamia that drank it. Problem is, because they kind of fucked up the recipe, it also gave them, an unquenchable thirst for human blood.
Let's fucking go.
So they kind of sort of accidentally made themselves into cursed vampires.
Wood?
Wood. Which is still a huge problem for Nehekhara, because now you have Lamian vampires that are just roaming around that have insane super strength and all of that. So they might have accidentally made themselves vampires, but hey, they are still just insanely strong and immortal. So Alcatazar has to deal with Lamia. And to make a long story short, he basically unites all of the armies of Nehekhara again. He rallies them against Lamia, and even with like sort of the immortal strength of the vampires, it's not enough to deal with the army of the Seven Kings. And they actually manage to, conquer Lamia again, drive out all the vampires, and the vampires are just like, oh shit, we didn't sign up for this, and they just scatter. But would you believe it? According to Nagash, this was all part of my plan.
Nagash's plan?
Nagash's plan. Nagash is like, I wanted them to find my book. I wanted them to screw it up. I wanted them to become immortal vampires because now I can use my dark influence to draw these Lamian vampires to Nagashazar, and they can become my champions. Now I have vampire champions. This was all part of the plan. He would also bring back to life his right-hand man, Arkan the Black. So now he's got his right-hand man, he's got his vampires, he's got an undead army of skeletons. So Nagash is like, all right, Nehekhara, your boy is back, and he's back for blood. And you think this time, like, oh man, Nehekhara's screwed. Man, there's nothing they can do. But Alcatazar again proves that he is a really capable king. And again, with the united armies of Nehekhara, he actually does hold off the undead vampire army of Nagash and defeats them. Vampires scatter again, they flee, the undead horde ceased, and once again, Nagash, not killed, but he kind of like runs off. And as he's fleeing this time, he kind of throws like a big temper tantrum. Because he's like, well, fine. If you don't want to respect my vampires, if you don't want to give me the crown, if you don't want me ruling Nehekhara, then fine. Nobody gets to rule. And then he proceeds to turn all the water. There's a place called the Great Vitae River, which is like the desert needs this water source to survive. Without it, you're screwed. He goes to this river, and more or less, he uses his crazy black magic to turn all of the water into just this murky, black, poisonous sludge.
This dude is such a dick.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, he is. And this would prove to be an attack that basically no one in Nehekhara could defend against because they relied on this water source. They didn't really have any other alternative. And so it's all just completely poisoned and unusable. Plague, famine, disease are running rampant, and 9/10 of the population of Nehekhara died. And all Alcatazar could do was sit on his throne and watch as his kingdom slowly crumbled and withered away at his feet because there was just nothing he could do. With all of his strength, all of his military prowess, there was nothing he could do to stop this just insane drought.
I don't mean to make fun of you in a painful way. I do have to ask a simple question.
Go for it.
Why did you say 9/10 like that?
I'm not entirely sure. And since a majority of the populace were dead, it was literally child's play for Nagash's forces to now invade, conquer, and take Khemri all for themselves. They stormed the palace at Khemri under basically no resistance. And I believe it's Arkan that specifically drags Alcatazar off the throne. They don't kill him, but they bring him to Nagash, who is in Nagashazar at the time. And so yeah, they've essentially conquered Nehekhara. Alcatazar is sitting in a jail cell in Nagash's home base because Nagash is like, hey, Alcatazar, you know how you were thwarting me at every turn? I want you to see what I'm about to do to your home. I want you alive and well so you can see for yourself my next pet project. because his next pet project is he wants to literally revive every dead corpse on the planet into an unchallenged army of the dead.
I mean, that seems pretty cool and definitely does not sound like something that might become a huge deal in a moment.
Oh, yeah. So he has this great ritual going, and he is like siphoning all of the power of his Black Pyramid. He's also consuming warp stones. Like it is a proper evil world domination scene. Like the skies are turning black, energies are crackling all over the place, and there's so much of his like necrotic, crazy energy going around that actually the few remaining people that are alive in Nehekhara, they get hit with this energy and they just wither to dust. It's like when you see like super time travel and someone just immediately ages into a skeleton. That's more or less what happens to whoever is unfortunate enough to still be alive.
That's such shenanigans in such a massive way, but kind of funny.
Kinda, yeah. And then as all of this is happening, right, as he's doing his, humans, plants, animals, it's all just turning to waste, right? And then something really strange happens. Alcatazar is still sitting in his cell, and he's like really weak. He's kind of like old man at this point, and kind of out of nowhere, these hooded Skaven just kind of show up. They just like happen to be there. They're these cloaked Skaven. And not only do the Skaven release Alcatazar, they give him a crazy warp stone infused dagger, and they sort of push him in Nagash's direction. And Alcatazar uses the last of his strength, and he stabs Nagash in the back and kills him before he can finish the great ritual. And Nagash dies. He can't finish his spell, and that's just kind of how Nagash dies. He gets shanked by Alcatazar in the back after Alcatazar gets a warpstone knife from some Skaven.
Sure. That's how Nagash dies, of course.
Mm-hmm. And for the longest time, I was like, what the fuck are the Skaven even doing there? Like, why? And I was looking into it, and apparently the reason why the Skaven were even in Nagashazar to begin with is apparently the depths of this fortress, giant fortress built into the mountain, were like rich with warpstone. And multiple times the Skaven had tried to conquer Nagashazar for all that warpstone, but they were unsuccessful. So I guess, they knew where Nagashazar was, they were infiltrating it, and they were like, ooh, Nagash, he's like really unprotected right now. Let's give Alcatazar this little warpstone treat and send him on his way, and then we can go in and take all the warpstone when the job is done. So, while Nagash couldn't really finish his crazy spell, all of that energy still kind of swept all over Nehekhara, right? You still had all of that necrotic energy that was like killing people, killing plants, killing animals, all that stuff. And all of that weird necrotic energy, it actually did start to wake the dead. Specifically, it started waking up the tomb kings, the literal tomb kings, the kings that had been mummified and put to sleep in their lavish tombs, the ones that were promised rule over a golden paradise for all eternity. They start to wake up. And they're all a little shocked when they wake up because they're like, what? This isn't what I was, my flesh is all decaying and there's nothing golden here. And it's like, they look to their left and it's like, what? This other king is waking up and he thinks he's the ruler? No shot. And so as all of these kings, these dead kings start waking up, none of them wants to secede power. They all think that they have a right to the throne. They all think that they are the one true ruler. And can you guess what happens?
I'm going to assume war.
Yes, the War of Kings.
Lovely. Which I have to assume that the War of Kings does not end.
It does actually. So Nehekhara is embroiled in yet another massive civil war. And like we said, but this time with undead kings and their undead armies. And it's just like endless because more or less they're undead and they are immortal. And I'm still not entirely sure how anything is even left of Nehekhara at this point with all the shenanigans. But the head of the mortuary cult looks at this War of Kings and is just like, you know what? This is some bullshit. And there's only one guy that hasn't been woken up. And I bet he'd put all this stuff right. Also, mortuary cult at this point is like, well, shit, like we promised them immortality and they basically have immortality now. So the only way we're going to fix any of this is to, undo all the protection wards and all the seals around that one brilliant white pyramid until it was finally time for him to take the stage. He is the imperishable, the King of Kings, the High King of Nehekhara, the Khemri, Lord of the Earth, Monarch of the Sky, Ruler of the Four Horizons, Mighty Lion of the Infinite Desert, Great Hawk of the Heavens, Majestic Emperor of the Shifting Sands, Eternal Sovereign of Khemri's Legion, Opener of the Way, Wielder of the Divine Flame, Punisher of Nomads, the Great Unifier, Commander of the Golden Legion, Sacred of Appearance, Bringer of Light, Father of Hawks, Builder of Cities, Protector of the Two Worlds, Keeper of the Hours, Chosen of Pitra, High Steward of the Horizon, Sailor of the Great Vitae, Sentinel of the Two Realms, the Undisputed, Begetter of the Begat, Scourge of the Faithless, Carrion Feeder, First of the Charnel Valley, Rider of the Sacred Chariot, Vanquisher of Vermin, Champion of the Death Arena, Emperor of the Shifting Sands, He who holds the Scepter, Great Hawk of the Heavens, Arch Sultan of Altana, Waker of the Hyro Titan, Monarch of the Sky, Majestic Emperor of the Shifting Sands, Champion of the Desert Gods, Breaker of the Ogre Clans, Builder of the Great Pyramid, Terror of the Living, Master of the Never-Ending Horizon, Master of the Necropolis, Taker of Souls, Tyrant of the Foolish, Bearer of Pitra's Holy Blade, Scion of the Usirian, Scion of Nahak, Settra the Great, Chaser of Nightmares, Keeper of the Royal Heart, Founder of the Mortuary Cult, Banisher of the Grand Hierophant, High Lord Admiral of the Death Fleets, Guardian of the Charnel Pass, Tamer of the Lich King, Unliving Jackalord, Dismisser of the Warrior Queens, Charioteer of the Gods, He who does not serve, Slayer of the Redditress, Scarab Purger, Favored Usirian, Player of the Great Game, Liberator of Life, Lord of the Sand, Wrangler of the Scorpions, Emperor of the Dunes, Eternal Sovereign of the Khemrian Legion, Seneschal of the Great Sandy Desert, Cursor of the Living, Regent of the Eastern Mountains, Warden of the Eternal Necropolis, Herald of all Heralds, and so on! This is Settra the Imperishable.
Yeah! Yeah! Encore! Let's go! Yeah! Do it again!
Can I just tell you, by the way, that that's not even all of them?
Is it actually not?
That is actually not. I think I stopped about 75% of the way down the list. There's actually a lot more.
Jesus. You know what I find the funniest out of all of that?
What's that?
This dude is the dude with the white pyramid, and he's still a huge asshole.
Oh, yeah. He is the guy. He is even as much of an asshole as he is, he's the best king they've ever had.
It's just, I mean, that's true, but wow. Is he a dick?
Yep. And when Settra takes the battlefield, the difference between just good kings and the imperishable one becomes real clear real quick, because he just goes God mode and he cuts through all the other kings. Like, it doesn't take long for the rest of the kings to be like, all right, we were just fooling your king, dude, chill. And when everything finally chills, Settra goes to the mortuary cult and he's like, what the hell happened? Everything is in ruin. There's no golden paradise. Where's all the shit you promised me? Like, I'm skin and bones. What happened? And he's furious. Like, Settra's wrath is legendary. And the mortuary cult leader is like, his knees are chattering, and he's just like, well, you know, and he tells him everything that's happened, the greed of the Tomb Kings, Nagash's bullshit, all the civil wars. And at this point, Settra hears this, and it must have been like this big facepalm moment, because he's like, you fucking idiots, you can't do anything on your own without me. That's it. I'm never going back to sleep. I've got basically an immortal body. I'll never go back to sleep. And essentially, he's like, Tomb Kings, get back in your damn tombs. Go to sleep, whatever. I will keep a watchful eye over Nehekhara. I will rebuild it. I'll keep stock over anything. If anything happens and we need to go to war, I'll call you. I'll call you. And so he starts rebuilding Nehekhara, and he begins what would be known as the reign of 1,000,000 years, where he would legit rule over Nehekhara in this manner for literal millennia. Sounds a little bit like some other Necron guy.
Don't worry about
right?
it. I'm not going to boss baby this one. Don't worry. I saw it. I rolled against it.
There would be one more notable event where, like, literally after a millennia, there would be some Norska men that ended up in Nehekhara. And I think they're kind of unaware of what the Tomb Kings are, so they just see, like, a bunch of pyramids that they can loot. And so they're taking all the stuff and they're grabbing everything. And as they're making their way back to their ships, uh-oh, where'd those skeleton armies come from? Why are they rising from the sand? And it's like, ugh. And so the Tomb Kings, they finally start awakening, and they go to battle because they're like, no, you're not going to make off with all of our riches and all of our stuff. And this really fierce commander, his name is Valgar the Butcher. He's roaming the battlefield on, like, he's got some crazy demon mount, and he's really just beating people up. But he's basically fighting an undead immortal army. But he's doing so much damage that Settra himself rides out on his big gold chariot, and he's like, I'm going to deal with Valgar myself. And so Settra very quickly decapitates his demon mount, but before he can land, like, a proper killing blow on Valgar, Valgar hits him in the chest with he's got this big rune-covered axe that's, like, engulfed in, like, these crazy flames. And it's such a serious blow to Settra that Settra just explodes into a mist of man-eating scarab beetles that just devour Valgar, like mummy style. And after they're done devouring Valgar, all of these bugs just fly off back to Settra's pyramid so Settra can recover his form. And in this attack, there are like a dozen raiders that managed to survive and make it back to their ships. One of them was named Kagul Bloodfist. And after the fight between Settra and Valgar, he sees that, like, oh, hey, Settra left behind his crown. Yoink! And he takes it.
Oh. Oh, no.
And it took a full decade before Settra could, like, restore his form. But you can imagine when he wakes up without his crown, he is pissed. And so he's like, wake up, everyone. Wake all of them up. And he wants everyone involved dead. He wants every last coin, every last piece of treasure returned, and any of those survivors, which again is like a dozen of them, he wants them all dead. And from what I read, he ravages through Norska, and thousands are slaughtered as he is getting all of his treasure back, and he is getting all of his blood. And before we continue, real quick, got to tell you about a guy named Apophis. I hope that's how you say it. In mortal life, he was a prince that was super jealous and decided, you know what? I want to be king of this city called Numus. And the way he does it is he straight up kills the entire royal line of the city, slits their throat in their sleep.
Ah, my favorite way to promote myself. Kill my old boss.
Mm-hmm. And then he takes the throne. He's like, look, guys, no one left. I'm the king now. And the people of Numa were like, no, you're not. Because they were still loyal to all the people they killed. And they were like, you know what? Nope. And they rally against him. They drag him from his seat of power, and because regicide is obviously one of the worst things you can do, they were like, you know what? You don't get mummified. We're chucking your bones into the desert. And so instead of going to the realm of souls, his soul goes to the underworld. Basically, his soul goes to hell. And when he gets there, because he was still royalty and because he was still a prince, the god of the underworld was willing to bargain with him. He's like, hey, if you can find me a soul that can take your place, I'll let you go. But you got to find a soul that is equal or greater than yours first. And so Apophis is reborn as a literal swarm of scarabs. Like, Shai, I don't know if you have a picture of his mini. He is literally just all bugs in like this human-ish shape. And he's got like this skull sort of Egyptian headdress, and he wields like a dagger. And I tell you this story because Apophis accompanied Settra on his siege. And while Settra is like, leading the charge, he's getting all the Nausicaans, Apophis was like, man, boy, that Khagul, he's a chaos champion now. Like he did so much stuff in that decade. Like he's a chaos champion. Humans are scared of him. He is super crazy juiced on chaos magic now. Ooh, and he had the balls to steal the crown of Nehekhara? That's the soul that's going to win me my place back into the realm of souls. That's the one I'm going to give to the god of the underworld. And so he kind of pulls like this cloak and dagger stuff, right? While Settra's doing the main attack, Apophis kind of sneaks into Khagul and he starts fighting him. And Khagul's like hacking and whacking and slashing away at Apophis, however you pronounce his name. But he's a literal swarm of bugs. So he stabs him and he like slashes him, but the bugs just kind of reform. And even his bodyguards, they try to help, but Apophis is just like, bleh, and he just spews out like this just unending sea of scarabs that just buries them.
I'm sorry, that the way you said that made me laugh really hard. Yeah, he's like, stop him, and then he was like, bleh, bleh. It's like, what the hell?
Right out of the Mummy, man. And I thought it would have been cool if he did that to Khagul too. Like he just, and just, ate him. But instead, he literally just slits Khagul's throat with a dagger because Khagul's like, oh, I'm going to get you. And like winds up for a really big axe swing and then just, and then he drags the soul to the underworld. I don't know if Shai has the details. I'm assuming that was enough to free Apophis, but regardless, he kills Khagul and Settra gets his crown back. And that's sort of where the Tomb King's lore ends, with Settra still just reigning on high, the reign of a millennia, at least until end times, as it were. So that's kind of like the deep dive lore on, not the deep dive, but that's sort of like your general lore of the Tomb Kings. And you kind of have to do this sort of like almost historical storytelling version because it happens so like outside of like everything that's already happened, right? Like it's sort of pre-Great Catastrophe, but also like pre-humanity. And so it's kind of like outside all that stuff. So yeah, Nagash will return.
Somehow Nagash has returned.
Yep, that's true. We talked about how he returned with Sigmar and how Sigmar had to deal with Nagash too. So he does return down the line. Yeah.
Oh, right, because Sigmar.
Mm-hmm. Sigmar had to deal with him too and his undead armies then.
That's right. It's difficult because we say Sigmar, and then there's like Sigmar, but then we refer to as like the game system of Sigmar. And then we refer to Nagash, and then we're learning fantasy, which means like Nagash will return. He returns in Sigmar, and blah 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 blah.
Yep. And he does, and Sigmar has to put on his crown, and it almost corrupts him, and then he uses it as bait. And go watch that Sigmar episode, everyone. You see how Nagash returns. I didn't quite make your timeline. I didn't quite make your deadline of an hour 15. Almost.
I am a little. Well, I will say Nagash's mini in Sigmar is kind of awesome. Unfortunately, Warhammer likes to epic embed fail me. So
that's okay. I clicked the link and god damn, Nagash's mini is 40K is not beating the allegations of.
They are not.
AOS being significantly cooler minis. But yeah, that's all I have on the Tomb Kings for now. Hopefully we can do like future episodes on them. Although I'm not really sure what else there is for them. But
a slight aside, the people who went crazy and turned into vampires, was that Nehekhara?
Yes, that was
Okay,
Nehekhara,
that was Nehekhara.
in Lamia. Yep.
They have a mini also, and it bangs so hard.
Oh, I would. Oh, yes, it does. Holy.
Yeah, that's insane.
Oh, my God.
Oh, God, we're not beating the allegations one bit.
Nope, you're not. Nope. God, that's so sick. I would be. The only thing about AOS is like all of their minis would terrify me to paint.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm not the best painter at all. I am perfectly average, and that terrifies me.
Oh, yeah. I remember trying to get into the haunts, which are just like ghosts, and man, I cannot do that like transitional, like wispy sort of like deal. So yeah, she scares me. She's got a lot of that shit on her.
It also, like, a lot of that stuff you often want to dry brush / airbrush, so...
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. You'd be able to do that a lot better with an airbrush. That's fair.
Yeah. Anyway, such is the power of Nagash.
Such is the power of Nagash. He will return.
The top level of this episode was absolutely you rolling through all the names. That was great.
I was wondering if I should actually go through all of them or if I should stop, and I was like, we've gone through enough of them. You get it.
Kind of wish you went through all of them, but it's okay. I think it was good enough for what it was.
Okay, all right. If Shy wants, I'll record literally all of them, and you can put it up as like an extra on Patreon or something.
Hell yeah! Such is the power of Nagash.
Such is the power of Nagash. Yeah.